Elon Musk's DOGE has spurred the, quote, resignations of at least 75,000 employees. Tens of thousands more have been fired, with more axings on the horizon.
Musk's opponents are crying foul, but those supporting him point to the Clinton-era program called National Partnership for Reinventing Government. Like Musk's DOGE, the cost-cutting measure eliminated hundreds of thousands of federal jobs, and mirroring DOGE, it was aimed at streamlining processes by cutting bureaucracy. So, what's the difference?
Elaine Kamarck not only worked for the Clinton administration, she led the initiative we're talking about. She's now a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, and she's with us now to discuss further. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So why don't we start with you summarising what you do see as the differences, because clearly you see very significant differences between the project that you were so sort of foundationally involved in and what Elon Musk is doing. So in summary, what are those differences?
Well, I think the basic difference was that we had a theory of the case, and we went into every basic cabinet department in the country, and we said, what are you doing? What's working? What's not working? Where can we cut? And where can we not affect operations? They are taking a much more aggressive and sort of across the board tack. They're not bothering to look at what these people are doing before they fire them. And you can see that in the fact that they've already had to hire back people. They tried to fire people at the Nuclear Energy, National Nuclear Safety Administration that guards our nuclear stockpiles. Oops, had to hire them back. They fired some people working on avian bird flu. Whoops, had to hire them back. They hired some people working on Ebola. They had to hire them back. So it's a very blunt instrument they're using. And we did a lot of cutting. We used new technology, but we went in agency by agency, and we tried to make sure that we were cutting fat, not muscle. And they're just cutting everything.
Can you go into greater detail about how your initiative eliminated government positions? What was your strategy for identifying areas where cuts could be made?
Well, we had a theory of the case. The theory of the case was based on what was then a new technology called the internet. So I might want to remind people that back in 1993, federal agencies didn't have websites, okay? You couldn't go to a website and find, for instance, the location of your Social Security office, okay? It was all brand new stuff. And what we realized, and you know, Al Gore was the leader, and he was a technologist before there were such things as technologists. Al Gore realized that the internet and all the ascendant IT and technologies would be used to cut, in fact, layers of management. And that's where we cut. We concentrated on getting rid of layers of management in agency after agency. That included regional offices. We closed a lot of regional offices, etc. And so we had a theory of the case, and it worked pretty well because we got ourselves a buyout bill. Congress passed it. They passed it with bipartisan majorities, which meant that civil servants taking it felt comfortable that they would actually get the money. By the way, this time they don't feel comfortable about that. So we were just more careful, frankly. We were just slower, more careful, and we did end up with a lot of savings. And we also ended up with a lot of cutting of regulations, which they seem to have abandoned, which is too bad because initially they were going to do a regulatory review. And that's one of the most important things people can do when they're doing government reform.
What do you think is motivating Musk to take the more cavalier, shall we say, approach that he is taking? I mean, you used the word careful pertaining to your own approach, and you know, he's taking a very different stance, which is to move as swiftly and as sweepingly as possible. What do you think is the motivation behind that?
I think it is that, first of all, Trump has one term. He has 4 years. We had 8 years to do this, and we worked at it all 8 years. I think second, Musk is a special government employee. I think he probably needs to get out of there at some point by 4th of July 2026, which is the deadline they've set. And the problem is that they're going to have to, every time they cut, they make a mistake. And Musk has admitted that. He said, and we'll fix our mistakes. So far, they've actually, I give them credit, they fixed their mistakes pretty quickly. But there's going to come a time when these things are going to blow up on them. And the public is going to not get its Social Security checks. They won't be able to get their drugs paid for by Medicare. They're not going to get their tax refunds on time because they've just cut thousands of people from IRS. So there's they're just playing with fire on this. I think the second thing, which is more disturbing, frankly, because I do believe a lot of these cuts will end up being reinstated. The second thing, which is more disturbing, is the fact that I think they are going after government databases and they want to train AI systems on government data. And for what purpose? They say it's to root out fraud. Okay, but who's going to own these systems? Is this one way to make, Elon Musk the king of the world by owning all the data on every American who has Social Security or pays taxes? That we don't have a handle on. What is he going to do with all this data?
So I agree with most of what you're saying, but here does emerge an interesting split. And I hear you on the concerns you're raising, but the upgrading the actual infrastructure and websites and user experience, all of that kind of stuff in government, that actually does speak to me as a potential area of expertise for Elon, or realistically the team of people he puts in place who, he's a tech leader, CEO. Mm-hmm. I obviously don't think, government should just serve Elon's specific business interests, so I share some of those concerns. However, the potential for AI or other new technological developments to make government, vastly more efficient for people relying on its services seems like one of the best cases for putting someone like Elon in charge, or again, Elon's team in charge of handling something like this. Given that, people have a variety of views about, whether Twitter is better or worse, but he did substantially reduce the number of people who work there with, I would argue, minimal impact to the way the users actually experience. The website doesn't glitch out or something now. That kind of efficiency brought to government would be pretty amazing, no?
Well, and I totally agree with you on that. And in fact, my hope was that Elon Musk would go in there and use his considerable talents and the talents of others to really do an upgrade with the government's IT systems so that the user experience would in fact be better. The problem is that instead he's gotten himself into slashing numbers of people, which he then has to bring back. He's causing chaos in the government, and it's going to degrade the user experience, not improve the user experience. If he would focus on technology and upgrading the technology, this would be a huge, important service to the American people. But instead, he seems to be hell-bent on creating chaos in these agencies, and it's going to have an effect on their service to the citizen.
Elaine Kamarck, thanks so much for joining us here on Rising. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next up, we will talk to a Texas Observer reporter who uncovered an ICE prosecutor behind what he says is a white supremacy X account. Stay with us for that.